Let me teach you something today. You've been running, chasing, striving, pushing every hour, every second, and you're exhausted. Not just tired, spiritually drained. You've been taught that hustle is everything. That success means you never stop moving. But let me offer you something different. A truth not spoken loud enough in this noise-filled world. Stop, be still, do nothing, and watch. Because silence is presence. Stillness isn't laziness, it's strategy. You think power is in the doing, but the real power that lives in the waiting, in the understanding. In knowing that your value is not tied to your next action, but to your inner clarity. Let me break it down. When you do nothing, you allow wisdom to rise. When you pause, you allow alignment to happen. When you observe, you stop forcing and start flowing. You've been so focused on building the life you think you want, you forgot to listen to the life that's trying to build you. Don't confuse noise for progress. Don't mistake motion for direction. Sometimes the best move you can make is no move at all. Because when you sit still, when you stop scrambling, the right people start showing up. The right doors start unlocking. The weight begins to lift. Not because you forced it, but because you finally let it. Nature teaches us this. The seed doesn't scream to become a tree. It just knows. The ocean doesn't force its tide. It trusts the moon. And you don't have to force your purpose. You have to trust it. You've been running, you've been chasing, striving, pushing every hour, every second of your day. And after all of this, you're tired. Not just physically exhausted. I mean, you're spiritually drained. Your mind is weary. Your soul is searching for peace, but instead you're caught up in the hustle. You've been taught by the world that success comes from constant movement, from relentless effort, that if you're not working, you're failing. That if you're not pushing, you're falling behind. But here's the truth that no one will tell you. You don't need to do anything right now. In fact, doing nothing could be the key to everything finally falling into place. You see, silence is not emptiness. It's not a void. Silence is the space where clarity can emerge. Stillness is not a sign of laziness. It's an intentional pause, a necessary moment for everything to realign. And I know that goes against everything you've been taught. But let me tell you, there's real power in stillness. When you stop, when you take a step back, when you do nothing for just a moment, you're creating space for something greater than your constant hustle. You might be thinking right now, how could doing nothing possibly help me achieve my goals? Well, I want you to understand something profound. Sometimes the greatest thing you can do for your life is to stop trying to force it. You've been chasing dreams, goals, and ambitions, but perhaps you're missing the bigger picture. You're so caught up in the action of it all that you've forgotten that everything you're striving for is already within reach. It's already unfolding, but you've been too busy to notice. I'm not asking you to quit. I'm not asking you to give up on your goals, but I am asking you to stop fighting for them so hard. Stop trying to make things happen in a way that you think they should. Let things unfold naturally. Be still and let the universe, or whatever higher power you believe in, do its part. Think about the way nature works. The seed doesn't fight to grow into a tree. It doesn't scream and stress its way to the surface. It simply waits, it trusts, it allows the process to happen. That's how you need to be. The seed doesn't have to push. The ocean doesn't have to force the waves to rise and fall. They are a part of something greater, and all they need to do is trust the process. In the same way, you need to trust that your life, your purpose, your calling is unfolding at the right time, in the right way. When you take a moment to do nothing, to let go of the pressure, you give yourself the opportunity to reconnect with yourself. You stop listening to the noise of the world telling you that you need to do more, achieve more, be more. You stop focusing on the results and start embracing the process. It's in this space of surrender that you'll find the answers you've been seeking. So why does this matter? Because when you stop running, when you give yourself the permission to pause, everything starts to fall into place. The right people begin to show up in your life. You meet the people who will help guide you, push you, and walk with you on your journey. The right doors begin to open, and the right opportunities start to present themselves. Not because you forced them, but because you trusted that they would come when the time was right. We're often so focused on the next step that we forget to take a moment and ask ourselves, am I really ready for what's next? When you pause and reflect, you allow your mind to clear and your soul to rest. You make space for new ideas, for creativity, for inspiration. And sometimes the best way to prepare for what's coming is to simply stop. The truth is that motion doesn't always equal progress. You can be moving constantly, going through the motions, checking things off your to-do list, but if it's not the right movement, it's not taking you anywhere. The best way to find direction is to allow yourself to sit still, to reflect, to align yourself with what truly matters. When you stop fighting against the flow of life, you begin to move with it. And that's when the real magic happens. The lesson here is clear. Sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing. Trust that what you've been working for is already on its way. Trust that when the time is right, you will be ready. You don't need to push or force. You need to allow. You need to be still and watch everything fall into place. Trust the process. Trust the timing of your life. And when you stop chasing, stop running, stop forcing, you'll realize that the very thing you've been waiting for was already on its way. It's hard to truly understand the power of stillness, especially when the world around us is telling us that we must always be moving. We live in a society that idolizes productivity, that praises people for being constantly busy. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, there's a sense of urgency that drives us. The idea that if we're not moving, we're falling behind. But I'm here to challenge that belief. There's a truth here that most people miss. The most powerful thing you can do for yourself is to stop, to pause, to do nothing. And let me tell you why. When we think about success, we often associate it with action. We think that the more we do, the more we hustle, the more we push ourselves, the quicker we'll get where we want to be. But that's not how the universe works. The universe doesn't rush. It moves at its own pace. Seasons change, the sun rises and sets, the tides come in and out, and yet everything is in perfect alignment without having to force anything. And you are no different. You don't need to force the flow of your life. You don't need to push against the natural rhythm. Sometimes the best thing you can do is to allow things to unfold without interference. It's in the stillness that we connect with the deepest parts of ourselves. When we stop trying to do, achieve, or prove, we make space for clarity. We create room for insight to rise. In the hustle, we're often blinded by the noise of expectations, the noise of competition, the noise of other people's opinions. But when we stop, when we breathe and just let go, we open ourselves to something far greater than the clamor of everyday life. We begin to hear our own voice. We begin to see the path that's been there all along, one we might have missed because we were too busy looking for something else. Think of the way a tree grows. It doesn't strain against the earth. It doesn't struggle to reach the sky. It's patient. It trusts that if it simply continues to stand strong, it will eventually grow tall, strong, and grounded. The tree doesn't fight for every inch of growth. It surrenders to the process, knowing that all it needs to do is simply be. And that's the lesson. You don't need to fight for every inch of progress. If you surrender, if you stop trying to force your will on the world, the right things will begin to grow in your life. The relationships you need, the opportunities you've been waiting for, and the success you've been striving toward will begin to manifest naturally because you've stopped forcing the process. You might be wondering, what if I just stop and nothing happens? But that's the paradox. When you stop, when you let go of the need to control every outcome, that's when everything starts to happen. When you stop pushing, you allow life to unfold in its own way, at its own pace. And here's what happens when you stop pushing. You make space for the right things. You begin to notice the small opportunities that were always around you, but you were too distracted to see. You start recognizing the people who are meant to be in your life, the ones who will help you move forward. You start to feel the shift in the energy around you because for the first time in a long time, you've allowed it to be. This isn't about giving up on your goals. This isn't about being lazy or procrastinating. This is about trusting that you don't have to do everything yourself. This is about surrendering to the flow of life and trusting that when the time is right, you'll know exactly what to do. When you stop, you free yourself from the pressure of always having to act. You stop trying to control the timing and start trusting it. The people who are meant to be a part of your journey will find their way to you. The right opportunities will appear when you stop forcing them, and the path that you've been searching for will reveal itself to you. When you stop, you also make space for growth. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that progress only happens through doing, but sometimes Progress happens in the stillness. You need that time to reflect, to learn, to understand. And in that time of reflection, you'll discover that everything you need to move forward is already within you. The answers, the strength, the vision, they've been there all along. You just needed to stop long enough to see them. The truth is that life doesn't always move in a straight line. Sometimes it moves in circles and waves and ebbs and flows, and when you stop trying to force every move, every step, you begin to move in harmony with the rhythm of your life. You stop struggling against the current and begin to flow with it. And when you do that, everything begins to align. Doors open, opportunities find you, and the life you've been striving for begins to fall into place. So don't be afraid to stop. Don't be afraid to do nothing for a moment. Because in that stillness, everything you've been working for will come together, and you'll realize that you were always exactly where you needed to be. We live in a world that constantly demands more. More effort, more work, more time, more sacrifice. We've been conditioned to believe that success is directly tied to how much we do, how hard we push, and how relentlessly we chase after our goals. But here's the truth you might not want to hear. Sometimes the greatest thing you can do is nothing at all. That's right. Sometimes the best way to move forward in life is to simply stop trying so hard. When you let go of the constant need to act, that's when everything begins to fall into place. Let's break it down. The reason you're feeling stuck, the reason you feel like you're not making any progress might be because you're pushing too hard, too fast. You're forcing things that aren't ready to happen yet. You're acting out of a sense of desperation rather than patience. We've all been there. We think we need to be constantly busy, constantly working, constantly striving for the next thing, but all that hustle can leave you feeling drained, overwhelmed, and out of sync with the natural flow of your life. Here's the thing. When you stop, when you choose to do nothing for a moment, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. You're not giving up. You're allowing yourself the space to breathe, to reset, and to trust that things will unfold in their own time. The universe, or whatever force you believe in, doesn't operate on the same timetable you do. Life has its own rhythm, and when you try to force it, you disrupt that flow. When you take a step back and stop pushing so hard, you allow everything to fall into place on its own. Think of it like this: the way the seasons change. You can't force spring to come any sooner. You can't make the flowers bloom before their time. All you can do is trust that spring will arrive in its own time, that the flowers will bloom when the conditions are right. And just like the seasons, your life has its own cycle. There are times when things are growing, times when things are still, and times when things are harvesting. You don't need to control every season. You don't need to rush anything. All you have to do is trust the process and allow the natural flow of life to carry you where you need to go. When you do nothing, you allow space for reflection. You give yourself permission to step out of the chaos, to sit with your thoughts, and to gain clarity. In our busy world, it's easy to forget how powerful it is to just be, to not constantly have something to do, to not constantly have a goal to achieve. But when you sit still, when you pause and reflect, you give yourself the opportunity to reconnect with what truly matters to you. You begin to hear your own voice again, to tune out the noise of the world and to find direction in the silence. When you stop, you also open the door to inspiration. You see, creativity doesn't always come from doing. Often it arises when you give yourself the space to think, to dream, to imagine. When you're constantly moving, constantly doing, you're not giving your mind the chance to wander, to explore new ideas, to find innovative solutions. But when you stop, when you do nothing, that's when the ideas flow in. That's when you have your breakthrough moments, the moments when everything suddenly clicks into place. You don't have to chase creativity. Sometimes you just need to stop chasing everything else and it will find you. Another crucial aspect of doing nothing is the ability to let go of control. We live in a world where everyone feels the need to control every detail of their lives. We think that if we don't micromanage every moment, things will fall apart. But the truth is, you can't control everything. There are things in your life that are beyond your control, and no amount of effort on your part will change that. But when you stop trying to control everything, you free yourself from the burden of trying to manage every aspect of your life. You allow the universe to bring you what's meant for you, and you trust that it will come at the right time. So what does doing nothing really mean? It means trusting the process. It means stepping back from the chaos and giving yourself permission to rest. It means surrendering the idea that you need to constantly be in motion. It means embracing patience, letting go of the need to rush, and trusting that the things you've been working for will come to you when the time is right. And here's the most powerful part of all of this. When you finally stop and allow things to unfold naturally, you'll realize that everything you've been working for, the success, the relationships, the growth, was always right there, just waiting for you to pause long enough to see it. The right opportunities will find you, the right people will enter your life, and everything will fall into place in ways you could never have forced. So don't be afraid to do nothing. Don't be afraid to stop chasing. Give yourself permission to rest, to reflect, and to trust. Because when you do, you'll find that everything you've been working for will come to you in the perfect way and at the perfect time. And when that happens, you'll see that doing nothing was, in fact, the best thing you could have done.